Be ready. 10 seconds to go. Start. I hope you will help us by analyzing these concepts so that we may not be led away by the slogans of politicians and statesmen. Do not think I am going to decry my tribe of politicians and statesmen here. They have much virtue in them, and I am not going to say that jurists and lawyers are always very successful in dealing with public affairs, although they may be successful in dealing with matter in courts or in giving opinions. A French writer on statecraft who lived some considerable time ago said, discussing lawyers, that in general, the training of a lawyer breeds habits and dispositions of the mind which are not favorable to the practice of diplomacy. Whether that is entirely true or not, I do not know, but there is perhaps something in it. The politicians obviously often go wrong, but the lawyers and the jurists in their ivory towers can also lose touch with reality. Therefore, some of the greatest judges have been those who have not only interpreted the law but adapted it to changing conditions without doing violence to it. It would be absurd for a problem belonging to the middle of the 20th century to be considered by some textbook maxim of the 18th or the 19th century. There is another aspect to this which troubles many of us, how far some recent developments can be fitted in with any conception of international law or moral law. Those developments which threaten the very existence of the human race not only by mass killing but by poisoning the atmosphere so that it has terrible genetic consequences, are not justifiable by any conception of international law or moral law. Surely this is not a matter to be considered only by statesmen and politicians. I do not know if jurists consider the moral law, but I suppose they have it in mind even in considering the letter of the law. It may be desirable for them to consider whether and how far these preparations for nuclear warfare or the test explosions are in keeping with any conception of international or moral law. If the politician, as a man who has some responsibility in public affairs, expresses his opinion, it is usually considered a biased and colored opinion because he belongs to the political apparatus of a country. But jurists' opinion also carry weight. International law is affected by the world becoming something bigger than the old narrow European community. And as the Attorney General said, modern developments in science and the application of science in communications and in social structures affect our ways of life, international relationships, as well as individual and group relations, and hence the need for a new concept of international law. You have referred, Mr. Attorney General, to Panchsheel, the five principles which have been accepted by a number of countries of Asia and some countries outside Asia. I claim no special virtue for them. They are only some simple principles which, if adopted by nations in regard to international relationships, will not only lead us away from war but will establish healthy relationships. They are really simple, and I do not see how anyone anywhere can object to any of them. The recognition of sovereignty, non aggression, non interference in internal affairs. When a country does not conform to these principles, it is misbehaving and interfering. It is not acting according to the real basis of international law, which consists of non aggression, non interference, recognition of sovereignty, mutual respect, all these leading up to peaceful coexistence. Peaceful coexistence means coexistence of countries which differ in their policies. There is no point in saying that two persons or two countries who agree should exist peacefully. They do. There is no point in my saying that I should be tolerant towards my neighbor if he and I have no reason to differ. The question of my tolerating my neighbor and his tolerating me arises only when we differ. The question of peaceful coexistence, therefore, comes in only when countries differ in their policies, provided always that they do not interfere with each other either internally or externally. If they do, then that is a breach. Therefore, I submit that these five principles, which are sometimes called Panchsheel, are a healthy basis for international relations. And I would further say, in all humility, that there is no other basis unless you accept the basis which leads to conflict, which of course is not our objective. Surely, international law should not encourage any attempt to compel or coerce a country to do something against its will or to fall in line with something that will bring conflicts. there is great variety in this world. Are we going to produce uniformity through some measure of force, military or economic? Perhaps it would be a good thing if there were uniformity in basic principles, but that can only develop by argument, by reason, by discussion, by conversion. If uniformity should come about through force that is not desired. Stop.